Smart, smart, do. We are the children, the children of God. Come, come, come. We change our world. We have what it takes to do it smart and make it smart. Welcome to our Smart Do.
Hello class 6 pupils, welcome to today's lesson. Today I want us to look at percentages of quantities. Percentages of quantities. Sometimes you're going to be taught to express a percentage of a certain quantity. For example, there are 36 pupils in a class. So, what is 20% of 36? What is 20% of 36? We know that of means multiplication. So 20% of 36, write the percentage as a fraction. How do we write percentages as fractions? 20% will be 20 over 100. Then of means multiplication. Times 36. 20% times 36. So this one will be the same as by 2 and by 2, 5. 36 divided by 5. 36 divided by 5, which is 7 and 1 over 5. 7 and 1 over 5. So 20% of 36 is 7 and 1 over 5. Just multiply directly. Another example. What is 40% of that 3,000 shillings? What is 40% of 3,000 shillings? 40% of 3,000 shillings is 40 over 100 times 3,000 shillings. Times 3,000 shillings, which is 1,200 shillings. Write the percentage of as a fraction, that is over 100, then multiply by the quantity given. Sometimes you're going to be told, given the questions in statement form, and be given the questions in statement form. For example, there are 600 animals. There are 600 animals in a farm. There are 600 animals in a farm. Among these animals, 30% of them are cows. 30% of them are cows. How many cows are in that farm? There are 600 animals in a farm. There are 600 animals in a farm. 30% of the animals are cows. So how many cows are in that farm? So 30% of 600 animals, the cows, the fraction of the cows will be 30 over 100. 10 times 600 animals. Because 600 animals represents one whole. 600 represents one whole or a whole quantity, which is represented by what percentage? A whole quantity is always represented by 100%. A whole quantity is always represented by 100%. So 30% of 600 will be 180 animals. So 180 animals are the cows. So if I ask you, how many animals, suppose we are told there are 600 animals in our farm. 30% of the animals are cows and the rest are goats. 30% are cows and the rest are goats. How many goats are in that farm? What do? We say 30% represent, so there are only cows and goats. There are only cows and goats in that farm. We say there are only cows and goats in that farm. And the farm has 600 animals. The farm has 600 animals. So if 30% are cows, what percentage will represent the goats? What percentage will represent the goats? The total number of animals in that farm is 600, which is represented by 100%. So if 30% represents cows, what percentage represents the goats? We say the percentage of the goats will be 100%, that is the total number of animals in the farm, minus 30%, minus 30%. What is 100 minus 30? 100 minus 30 is 70%. That means 70% of the animals will represent the goats, because 30% represents the cows. So the number of goats, the percentage that represents the number of goats is 70%. Where does 70% come from? It is 100%, which represents the total number of animals, minus 30%. So the number of goats will be 70%, that is 70 over 100. 70 over 100 times 600, which is 420. That means there are 420 goats in that farm. The last example, I give you the last example. In a school, 45% of the pupils are boys. 45% of the pupils are boys. In a school, 45% of the pupils are boys. If there are 60 boys in that school, how many pupils are in the school altogether? In a school, 45% of the pupils are boys. If there are 60 boys in that school, how many pupils are in that school altogether? How many pupils are in that school altogether? So here we are given the percentage of the boys and the number representing the boys. So we ask ourselves, if 45% will represent 40 pupils, what about 1%? What will 1% represent? If 45% represent 40 pupils, 1% will represent what? 1% will represent 40 pupils over 45. 1% will represent 40 over 45. Then remember, the number of pupils in that school is 100%. That is the total population of the school. So if 45% represents 40 pupils, 1% of the pupils will be 40 over 45. So the number of pupils will be 40 over 45 times 100. Then from there, you just simplify and get the total number of pupils in that school. So that is how we work out percentages of quantities. Thank you.